session already. Graviton practice groups. I think we're heading to 10, no, Juan? 10 practice sessions. Oh, wow, last.
I think.
So yeah, for once I didn't write an inclusive welcome. It skipped my mind today. But while looking a bit through all the chats that we had, I was thinking like, oh, which tool could you introduce today? And my eyes stopped rereading actually Innovator's post on, hey, what happens, when the team sort of slow down a little bit and you don't get a lot of reaction back. What do you do with leadership then, right? How do you motivate the group again? And I feel a bit lonely, that kind of feeling. So I thought like, maybe we should work on that a little bit and introduce a tool that might help. There's never a silver bullet, but introduce a tool that might help with these problems or with these tensions, or when you sense a little bit of low energy in the air, how can I help my team to feel motivated again? So I picked a tool and Jeremy liked it, and voila, we rumbled a little bit, and now we're gonna try this one. So instead of an inclusive welcome, I'm gonna read the quote that I suddenly thought of when preparing this, and that made me also think of Innovator's post and question. When facts become more important than feelings and dreams, we get bored. We don't vote, won't go to meetings, we avoid relationship problems, and we become disinterested in life. And disinterested participants erode organizations, precipitating their collapse as if they were empty paper buildings. And that's maybe the feeling a bit that Innovator was describing, right? It comes from this little book, very, very recommended. It's only like this. It's a practical tool guide on setting up what he calls open forums. And nobody's asking my opinion, but I'm going to give it anyway. This will actually heal our democracy if we start organizing this all over the place, super decentralized, in real life, under the tree in the town, open forums, talk to each other. Voila. The tool we're going to use today is called the check-in wave. And you're very familiar with check-ins. We always do it in 2 minutes. We just say, hey, how are you? And then we invent a question. But we're going to do the real deal today, a real check-in. And that comes in a wave, in 3 steps. I'm going to get to that later, because first I'm going to head over to Jeremy, because for a check-in, we usually work with a question. And I would like you as a group to come up with the first question. And I'm going to hand over to Jeremy because he's going to back up with some theory about that.
So questions. You've probably heard me talk about invitations, because this is like the most essential ingredient in liberating structures. And invitations are the question or prompt, the trigger that we use that sparks an interaction. And like so many things, how you start and the direction you set has a huge impact in whether or not it works and gets you going in the direction you're going, you hope to move in. And so for invitations, we have 4 basic guidelines of things we want to do in order to help stick the landing and help orient everybody in a good direction. The first thing we want to do with our prompt or our question, in this instance for the check-in, is we want to avoid judging or framing, right? We don't want to say these things are good, these things are bad. You're either on our team or you're against our team. We want to just try and be as neutral as possible. And we want to open some different avenues for thinking. So we want to give some people some different options about aspects that they can sort of choose from. And together those aspects will help give you a feel for the milieu of what we're talking about. And you might grab one of those aspects and really run with it. You might use those aspects to get a feel for that, like I said, that gestalt, and go in a totally different direction. But those aspects will help sort of provide some form of frame of reference. We want to be specific about the problem or the thing at the core of our invitation, but we want to be ambiguous about the perspective, meaning that um, you've probably heard somebody in the course of this practice group ask me, in response to an invitation, is it like this or is it like this? And my answer is always yes, because again, I want to be specific about the thing we're exploring, but I don't want to tell you how to look at it, because actually the more heterogeneity, the more different ways we look at that central thing, the 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 better we are going to be off, because we're going to have a lot of different rich information to layer on top of each other. If you look at it from, top down, and I look at it from the side, and Lean looks at it from under, then we have a really good opportunity to see a lot of different essential elements of this central thing that we're observing. And last but not least, you'll probably have already gotten the feel from it in this explanation. A good invitation is slightly abstract. It should give you something, some sense, but it should always also leave you with a little bit of like, the fuck is he talking about? And so those are the 4 essential ingredients for actually great invitations. Better than good, extraordinary, in fact. Um, I use a bit of a template, which if my screen refreshes, I guess I can do that manually. A bit of a template to help design really interesting invitations, because it's hard to remember all of that shit, but this template effectively gives you a simple recipe that you can follow. So if we take the central ingredient and we put it in the middle at 0, and then we open up 3 different aspects in 1, 2, 3 different avenues for thinking. And then we just simply invite people to take note of what rises to the surface, what jumps out, what emerges at them. We will effectively have done those 4 steps of a great invitation. And it's super simple. All you have to do is literally count 0 to 4, 0 to 3. But that apparently can be a little confusing. So what we're going to invite you to do today is to use that template and come up with an invitation that we're going to use for our check-in wave today. So it seems like we have a sort of central theme already, that is sort of imported by Innovator's post around leadership and team vibe, so to speak. So if we put that in the 0 space, what are some interesting and perhaps relevant aspects to open up around that central theme?
There was a part there that I missed about the theme, so can you restate that for me, please?
Yeah, the central theme, how would you describe it, Lean?
The central theme, we picked it up from Innovator's post, where we questioned. Sorry, had a question like, "Hey, I'm struggling with leadership. Like, my team is a bit quiet. They are not responsive. Like, there's low energy, and I feel a bit lonely. I don't know what to do." Right? You feel the leader as a lonely person at that moment, like wanting to motivate but not being able to reach the people. You know, and that triggered me to choose the tool we're going to use today. And Jeremy is providing a framework for us to think about a check-in question that we're going to use.
So let's just take personal leadership in a team context, right? And what are 3 aspects? And how about we just, I will literally point at people and say, give me an aspect. That might be a precious savior. So Juan, I'll pick on you because you're always game. So what's one aspect of leadership, personal leadership in a team context, that you'd like to help frame the conversation with?
Yeah, losing control. like sometimes we're control freaks and we assume that leadership is having control over everything. And yeah, I think that to allow people to have freedom and agency, you also have to allow things to not go as you planned, but to be as also the other people, including the feedback and the things from the other people. Yeah, because we don't like to feel that we are just like being micromanaged or managed. We like to, yeah, I don't know. At least that's something that I try to do. That if I allow someone to have leadership, I respect even if they do things differently than I would.
Okay. So we say, when it comes to personal leadership in a team context, considering how do I summarize this? Like having no control, right? Or maybe no coercion. What's another aspect?
Could somebody put a screenshot of that image in the chat so I can see it? I refreshed and I can't get the image to load on my screen. It's like the only window I can't see.
Same.
Thank you.
Sure, I can drop it in the chat. I've got it handy. There's the recipe, and here comes the template. And so our first aspect is having no control or coercive authority. What's an interesting aspect that can help us explore this concept of personal leadership in a team context? And I promise to God, this template, you're about to see how bulletproof it is, because we can literally throw spaghetti against the wall and you'll see that this is actually going to be an extraordinarily interesting question. What do you got, Benz? You're always thinking, man. I know you got something good for us.
What what was the question again? I am thinking. I'm trying to wrap my head around the
Yeah, just what's one aspect of personal leadership in a team context?
personal leadership in a team context. I guess accountability. So like when you say you do something, you can display like your personal leadership by being accountable for what you say you'll do and following through.
Awesome. Accountability it is. And can somebody with a different chromosomal makeup offer us the last one?
I have a good one.
Give it to me.
I do like, and I don't know what's the adjective for it, but when a leader can galvanize its followers, when it can inspire, stimulate them, and arouse them towards specific type of action, when the conviction is so rooted in competence that it is contagious, that is just it's magical for me. It's yeah, I'm baffled at people who like Griff is a good example for that. It's probably a good example for anything that related to leadership. But I do like that quality, and I'm always thinking about how to cultivate that within myself.
Interesting. So I get the feel of inspiration. what I notice is that we this is like, I don't know if anybody recognizes this, but this is like Leadership for Men 101. Like the invitation we've come up with is like having no coercion or control, accountability, and inspiring action. This is just like masculine leadership number, like over 9,000. I'm going to request Bianca. Can you give us something else other than this dude stuff?
Little white
Sure.
chromosome.
I love it.
I was thinking about like how like we can affect other people being a leader.
Can you give me a little bit more?
Like in our insights, how our insights affect other people, like what the way that we talk, the way that we say, the way that we put our ideas on, how can it affect other people?
You know what I like is that in some ways this is almost identical to what was it what Beer just said, but it's has such a different feel behind it at the same time. So we've got for an invitation. Well, let's see how this works. So when it comes to personal leadership in a team, considering having no control or coercive ability, expressing accountability, and influencing others, what emerges as relevant? So I'm going to repeat that one more time, and then we're going to go through the check-in wave. Lean's going to explain that. So when it comes to personal leadership in a team context, considering that we have no control or coercive ability, we have only personal accountability and the ability to influence each other as peers, what rises to the surface as relevant? Like I said, I already see that. What the fuck does he mean on multiple faces? Let's just park it. Lean's going to explain the check-in wave, and then I'll drop it to you one more time so that you can jump into it.
Right. So we're going to work with a check-in question, with the check-in wave. Check-in wave is a tool that you can use if you feel that you're losing a bit connection with the team, right? You're a locomotive in a team, you're the leader maybe, like a position of pulling the team, the inspiring person, the person that thinks accountability, the one that is responsible in the back, maybe that person, right? And you feel that your team is losing connection a little bit, is losing you a little bit. Then you can use this tool. It goes in 3 steps. The first one is a regular check-in question, right? What you always do. And we're going to, the check-in question of Jeremy, we're going to use on that, and we're going to brainstorm on that. And then in the second phase, instead of going to the meeting, we're going to do a second round. And this second round, you will actually give back to the other people of your team, like, what touched you? What resonated with me? Right? So you're all going to first check in, and then you say like, hey, but Ben said something that actually, wow, it touched me a little bit. Like, it resonated with me. Or Bianca said something like, oh, wow, it made me think of this. Wow, I had to swallow a little bit, or I had to take my breath a little bit, right? So you're going to see what the others, how it affected you. And then in a third one, you're going to reflect on, oh, wow, what have I learned about myself? And you're going to give that back to the group. And what have I learned about the group? What insights did I get? You zoom out a little bit on the group, like, I had no idea that this, for yourself and for the group. And if you use this tool, it will bring back your connection and will bring back the humanity. You're all humans in a group. You're not just workers, right? You're human. So it brings back that atmosphere. Voilà. So, check-in question. Jeremy. The first round. We're
All
gonna
right.
answer this question.
When it comes to personal leadership in a team, considering that we have no control or ability to coerce, we're only accountable and can influence each other as peers, what rises to the surface as relevant?
In any check-in, just before you go, Juan, so that everybody, you can just share. Everything is welcome. I didn't do my inclusive welcome, but everything that pops up in your mind, every feeling, if it's frustration, then you share frustration. If it's anger, then please go for it, right? If it's emotions, please go. On opinion, please share, right? First wave. There we go. Juan.
Yeah, like influence on people. I think that's such a powerful thing. Like helping someone to shine. That's really cool, and we can influence both positive and negative ways to someone. But by saying positive and negative, I am like violating the rules of that we were not going to categorize. But yeah, we can influence on someone to stop contributing, or we can influence for someone to like contribute more and better. So it's just, I won't say good or bad, but yeah, like just the capacity to influence on someone. It's what touched me.
Who's next?
I can go next, but I'm gonna be the party pooper and ask you, Jeremy, if that was allowed, because wasn't part of the premise of the question like if like only influencing yourself and not in others, or did I misunderstand?
I think any way you want to look at it is okay. So the invitation, the prompt to not judge or frame is more to do with how I set up the invitation rather than the responses that are acceptable to it. We'll just go, everything's an acceptable response. So let her rip.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say self-reliance. So sort of like self-trust and self-leadership. Because oftentimes we might say we're going to do something, but we don't do it, and then other people are relying on us, and the whole chain of contributions in this case gets skewed or misaligned because someone said, yeah, because I guess someone thought he or she could do something, but turned out that, and I don't mean it's like an inner thing. I'm not trying to be like, oh, you say you're gonna do something. It's more like I guess knowing yourself to the point where you know if you commit to something, you'll be able to deliver. It is something that is amiss within me at times, but I guess that's why it's on my mind. So self-reliance. Also, great essay by Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of my favorite writers. So shout out and chilling on that as well. But just want to say that self-reliance.
Gurgudas?
So what came up for me is that when it comes to teams and personal leadership and things like this, I think it's important to be able to recognize that people can't just exhale forever, if you know what I'm saying. Like there's just no way to be endlessly productive, right? And so you have to inhale at some point, right? And so if your team is being quiet, I would reflect on whether or not um, me sort of out there cheerleading for more productivity or more whatever is the appropriate thing at that time. Do you know what I mean? And so my question is, okay, so there's sort of there's being and there's becoming, and a lot of this sort of do-ocracy idea that we even have here in the TEC is founded in this sort of, I don't know, endless quest for productivity. But at the same time, they're human beings, so there's a kind of beingness that has to exist within the person, and so maybe it is that through that productive period that we just had, now we've got to reframe and we've got to figure out what happened and do the 3W thing, what, so what, now what kind of thing, and figure out what's going on, and then figure out how to, maybe this person needs education, maybe this person needs empathy, maybe this person needs, to just not be around this team for a period, like there can be any number of things. So leadership in this sense is there's a kind of metaphor that if you hold sand, you have to hold it with the exact right amount of tension. If you squeeze it too hard, then the sand runs out of your hand. If you let it go, then the sand also runs out of your hand. There's a kind of balance that has to exist in terms of leadership there. And it seems to me that that's also, if you squeeze too hard and the sand runs out, then in order to keep the rest of what you have to then adjust back to the right balance. You see what I'm saying? So there's all these kinds of, in terms of leadership, there's things aren't stay static. There are never, things are always evolving and always changing. So it seems to me that the most important thing in leadership is curiosity, and I won't notice those things unless I'm curious, and I won't be able to make those kinds of adaptations and other things if if I don't. So I guess that's what came up for me when I was hearing this question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe because there are still more people, I'll just give a brief where we are right now so they can jump into the round. So welcome Streamert and Zeptimus. We're doing a check-in wave, and we are doing the first round of that check-in wave. And the first round, we are answering, all of us, without interrupting each other, the question, what is leadership, right? We did the first exercise with leadership in a team, especially in the context of a little bit demotivation of the team members, a little bit of disconnection between the team members. Like, what does leadership mean to you? So that is the check-in question. We've got a couple of answers already. After this round, we go into a second and a third round, practicing the tool check-in wave. So that's where we are right now. Right.
For me, for me, a leader is like a person you can, when you are like lost, like imagine a group of people working on something, and then there's one person like it's also working as hard as everyone, but have like a more vision on how things are going and probably more knowledge on certain tasks. And then like people is asking him questions, and for me like leadership is like this person like probably the one that's working harder than everyone, and people go and ask them questions. I don't know if that's, I would love to hear everyone else, but sadly I came late, so I don't know. Yeah, back to you, Lynn.
You're totally fine, Zep, you answered in the middle of the round, so we still have a few to go. Whoever wants to pop up next, be our guest.
Yeah, I guess leader is someone maybe showing some very, very general directions when that's kind of demanded, but also takes initiatives. All does that. It's just being some good example maybe, and where others kind of delegate, just representing them. But other than that, maybe leader can bring out what can be the potentials that a team can do, not based on what have achieved, but what they are motivated. And yeah, sometimes team members can maybe not directly communicate, not knowing about each other. Maybe leader knows, and then they match kind of, or something like that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I was just gonna say, what comes up for me is like, I don't remember where I read this, but it was like talking about the difference between stewardship versus leadership, and just like stewardship as a way of kind of like leadership that's more like facilitative and like non-coercive. And like I really like how we have stewards within like the TEC. So that was just something that came up for me.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I resonated with two things, with the momentum,
Juan,
because
if you don't mind, I'm gonna interrupt you and make sure that we first finish the round. I'm so sorry. So because Bianca still has to speak, Manu and Aloysius too. Sorry, and then we do a next round, and Bear too, I think.
Yes, I can go. Can you hear me? From the question, what initially popped into, well, like first I felt like a wave of relief. I felt, I don't know, this like sense of autonomy. It's like something that I can sense in a space, whether or not I genuinely have it, whether or not people have like intentions or goals, or they're set out to like get things from the spaces that they're in. I can like feel those things. I can feel people's like need, and then this like odd space between like what we say and what we want and like our intentions and then our behavior. It's kind of all like a little bit muddled with like kind of a little bit of coercion when people enter spaces with like needs and stuff that are dependent upon other people filling them. So like the sentence as it was shaped, the question, gave me this like sense that like if that was true, if that sentence was real and held in a group, I would feel like people understood what boundaries were and could communicate them, and that's what created that like non-coerciveness. And then there was also something about, but then there was also a little bit still in it about influencing our peers, and I was thinking about like what it means to influence and why we want to influence so badly, and if we're on a team with like-minded people, why that's so desired. Just kind of thinking about, I guess, the fetishization in culture with power and like stepping into power and having power as if you weren't innately born with it, and just kind of had it all along. So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how to be present, and then I was thinking about personal leadership. Like it was kind of messing with my head because it was personal leadership in a group setting, and I was like trying to like figure out what was happening there, with my brain thinking about that. And I guess for me, personal leadership is self-discipline, but I also have this belief system that in order to have self-discipline, you also have to be like grounded in reality and not be able to be coerced by anyone else's constructs of discipline. Like it's a personal belief system that you've established for yourself, and you are the only person who can discipline yourself in theory, in reality, or whatever. Like in systems that weren't cohesive as if we weren't like in those already. But that's kind of like my daydreamy space is thinking about that. So discerning your autonomy, I think, is something that leaders have to be able to have in order to have a healthy impact and influence on people. And I think that comes from like competent and experience and like tools that they developed. Like a leader has many things to fall back upon that are not just the things that other people haven't learned yet, or that could just like assimilate to in like moments of fear, like old systems. So I guess that's kind of like the pile that came up for me on that one.
Thank you.
Check.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I can go because I have to go after sharing my opinion here. I really resonate with what Ben said. I feel like leadership is mainly about being a guardian, but contemporarily or currently that is lost. Like leaders hide behind a mask of service to self-serve, and I mean it's very prominent in politics, and that in turn, like being a guardian, there are people who are gonna want to take what you're guarding, and I'm conflicted about in this world. I do believe like goodness spiritually is more powerful metaphysically in the greater scheme of things, but I'm conflicted about evil or service to self, if you will, having a tactical advantage over good in that someone who can cheat, steal, kidnap, threaten, kill, murder, you know, what is an honest man to do against opposition of that kind, right? And there's a quote by Hannah Arendt that says, "Courage is indispensable because in politics, not life, but the world is at stake." Um, and so I think that guardianship over something, which is why I like the term steward, because it frames. Sorry, Jeremy, framing here, but it frames the it frames the idea in a way that to me makes more sense. I also like the Zelda Triforce, that is like it's courage, wisdom, and power. And yeah, courage has to have wisdom lead it for it to become a noble type of power. If there's power without courage and wisdom, then you have the type of power that destroyed the whole kingdom in that particular epic story, which is full of like timeless wisdom if one goes into an in-depth analysis of it. But that's what I wanted to share about it. I do feel like it's about guarding. In our case, we're guarding a resource, a digital public good, and we're stewarding it. And I think that's in line with perhaps how divinity wants us to understand leadership, in my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think we still have Inesi and Bear, no? To go.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think Inesi still has to check in. Inesi, so do you understand the question, or do you want me to repeat?
Would be wonderful if you can repeat it.
Yeah, so we're checking in, all of us, on leadership and what it actually means to you. So we all gave different aspects of leadership, what it is to be a leader for a team.
Okay, got it. So, well, I think I agree with Bear point of view. I think having that position, like own that position to be a leader in the group is more like having this role as a guide, not just someone who is pointing a direction, if not guide all the team or the people that is involved in that group to actually observe and invite them to interact or to think about in others' perspectives and share that with that information with each other so they can grow together. It's not a matter of just pointing one direction. It's about discuss it, about share different point of views and find together the right. And I say right, you know, something. Let's say it's right for some and not for everybody. I mean, the right path is just a paradigm. But if we share information, we probably will find that right path to feel more welcome in this world, because we need that. We need kindness. That's my perspective.
All right.
Thank you.
So just to zoom out a tiny bit, so we've done the first round now. So now what I'm going to do as the facilitator here, and I hope Jeremy's going to help me, instead of just moving on, I'm going to make a summary. And why am I doing that? It's to make sure that all the voices that popped up here stay in the group. Otherwise, they're going to be in no time a stronger voice, and the little bit of the no voices or the leave voices will already snowed under. So to try and stay as long as we can with all the aspects here, I'm going to try and give a summary. So Jeremy, please fill me in, and the rest of the group too, if I forgot something. So aspects of leadership in this group. I think the majority voice was on service leadership. I think a lot of answers were giving on a leader that is actually at the service of the team. I heard guidance. I heard a guardian. I heard people, hardworking leaders that keep the overview of what people are working on. I heard people. I heard leaders as people that you can go to if you have questions, very service related. I heard leaders that help other people to shine, so that help other people to be their own leaders. I heard flexibility. I heard a leader as a very kind person, as a welcoming person, somebody that makes sure that people are invited into the group, feel welcome in the group. And then at the end, the steward facilitation I heard also as a leader. So that was all under leader, really as the service related leadership.
And the vision is in there as well, I think.
Yeah, I put it outside of that. That's interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and then the little bit of the one that didn't fit into that immediately was the leader that takes initiative, that brings the group somewhere, and sort of, instead of more guiding where the group goes, says like, maybe we should go there. Sort of the guidance suddenly, right? within the own inspirational and visionary. The leader as a visionary, the leader as an inspirer was there as well. And then I heard a lot of that was more about the self, that you can only be a good leader if you've hidden agenda, if you are grounded in yourself, if you've done the research, if you have autonomy, if you have self-discipline, self-knowledge, if you can rely on yourself, if you've matured a little bit, that you're grounded in reality so that you are aware of the impact, and that's a healthy impact. Autonomy, I heard as well.
Setting the boundaries.
Yeah, setting the boundaries, exactly. So it's as much about the team as it is about you and your personal growth and how you relate that to the group. So is there any aspect that I forgot? All right, then maybe we can go to a second round. What touched you? What touched you? What resonated with you? What were you like, oh my God, how the hell am I going to do that? Or, damn it, I made a mistake there. Or, I need to read that book there. Or anything that you feel. Oh God, that I totally rocked. That I did that awesome. What is
Oh
out
no.
there? Which stories touched you? Second round. So we go again. We don't interrupt. We just share. We bring out the voices that are in you, that are in this group.
I felt that sometimes I talk too much. Like, I started speaking about losing control, but it's also something that it's difficult for me.
Thank you.
The comments on stewards really resonated with me. I have like this passion for continuity. So when I hear of stewardship, I hear of like people who are invested in something with longevity, and they're like curating a space and helping other people like learn about it. Like that's like deeply resonant to how I show up in spaces and places and relate to like things. I liked hearing that.
Thank you. Who's next?
This is less relevant to like leadership in the actual question, but it was just something that came to my mind as actually you were talking, Aloysius, the first time, about like your kind of felt sense and how that's how you interpret that. And that's interesting to me because I don't feel like I do a good job of like acknowledging that, like how my body is feeling in a lot of ways. So that was just something that I was like, oh, that's something I can work on. Less relevant to leadership, but I thought I'd share anyway. So.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I would say a couple of stuff. Like most of time or in general, I don't feel like I'm leading something. It's just like I'm building stuff on some vision or trying how it looks and, to think further maybe. But then shaping them with others and not sure what I'm leading or not saying if I'm leading, but like that's not one thing or priorities change. Like then what are expectations of maybe multiple communities from those leaders? Let's say they're leading or started at some point many projects, then hey, like in time, then a leader should be able to delegate, not saying even delegate, but just, you know, depends, of course, like in this case, but I think that's gonna be something neat, because it's not like, hey, it's my baby and gonna be like this all the time. Yeah, but it contradicts, if you wanna let community kind of decide on stuff too. Then I think it comes to the vision, where people, if leaders can make those visions more clear, than like a bit more, you know, uh, hey, in their, if they can continue reflecting that values in their new projects, then that could be something that I found like touching. That's like seeing that in that project and then the other. So like who you are, kind of showing, being able to show that with projects touched me, and I think that's just easy to start with a website and tell your ideas, and kind of discovered that easy path so far. Yeah, kind of. So yeah, I'm just
Thank you.
trying to lead the vision, I guess. Not sure about that's the people. It's like we find each other around those, I guess. Yeah. Which I don't know if that's something to lead, but maybe something to uh, create awareness around or advocate. Hey, like this dude still still on those matters. Why? Because cares, like maybe that's kind of, yeah. I don't want to necessarily say like, hey, this leader is leading that sector, that business, but what are those uh notions they brought? Like maybe they really did advocate or did stuff around education or something that are common, and they're kind of known it all. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? What touched or you noticed? Thank you. Anybody else?
Maybe I can share one. Fall out of my role of facilitator, but I was quite touched or it's like I was shocked a little bit. Like I had expected that the first word, or one of the first words that Aloysius mentioned was relief. Wow, relief, leadership, or relief? What? Where? How? Because it feels like this heavy load, right? Look at all these aspects that you mentioned. Who could ever do that? So it was like, oh wow, okay, relief. I'm not there. I'm not there yet. So I felt that, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Then I'll jump into the mix too. I notice my heart jump into my throat at the notion of using like service to serve myself. Notice that was like, oh shit, like that caused a sense of alarm and like vigilance that really jumped out. Anybody else?
Yeah, I will share something. Sometimes we are so used to just hear our own voice, and we forgot to consider other voices and make decisions. It's not just something. I mean, you don't have to use your own voice only for taking decisions. You can also hear other voices. That's important, especially if you are working together with other people. Sometimes we just forgot about that. We can easily forget that to hear other voices in a group conversation, and that's what I learned today. And I wanted to share that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, Inisi actually very slowly touched the third question. We were actually supposed to do a third one. Like, what did it learn about you, yourself?
I learned that for myself today. I have to hear other people's voice. I can't just assume that my point of view is the right one. That's why I say to me today, it's like a hyena. So you have to learn to hear other people's voice. You can't assume things, and that's kind of a lesson for me today.
Thank you.
All right. Do we want to keep going for a bit, or Juan?
Yeah, maybe some few minutes. I also struggle with losing control, but I like come back to this point because when you lose control is when you let the other people to be free. So and when people is free is when they are better to contribute in a good position to contribute. So yeah, losing control. Also, Yeah, now that we are wrapping, but I know that we will continue some minutes, I want to show you my niece. She's the daughter of my brother.
Hello.
The bows and everything,
That's
man.
cute, eh?
Killer.
Wow.
Yeah, she's the daughter of my brother, Josephine.
Thank you, Juan. So, yeah, what did you learn about yourself today? Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's interesting to see I love hearing the diaspora of different spheres of concern. In when people are talking about leadership. I once read a book a long time ago called Influence Without Authority, and it's been a really big influence on me in terms of thinking about leadership. How is it that I could sort of demonstrate leadership without you know um, being somebody who's technically in power, in a hierarchical position of power. So I've tried to let that guide me. But it is interesting to see how different people, um, even in this form, often refer to themselves in terms of the hierarchical structures that they find themselves in. And so that's just a thing that I kind of, not only learned about myself, but I don't know, I don't differentiate that much between the inner and outer. So I guess hearing more about, people's ideas of leadership, teaches me something about myself.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I can say that my curiosity for goodness got deeper. Like it's kind of always been like a thing that I've been curious about goodness. Um, but it's been coming up just like a lot culturally and more lately at like the height of things and moments and critiques and things is goodness. Um, and I've been picking apart some doctrine I'm not supposed to have. It's called the power of personality in war, and it's something that's distributed in our like government through people in power to like shape the narrative around power and culture and to influence for the reasons of war. And yeah, I just it's there's something really fascinating about people wanting to do good and ending up doing bad with their behavior and like what lays between that. I'm like so fascinated because I see it as lack of awareness, and I'm like how to illuminate the actual harms that are present so people can make good choices that are in alignment with their authenticity. So it's bringing me back to this like this goodness is like, yeah, people are good, and a lot of people like don't have actual tools for being good, and then how to fill those in. So I'm stewing on that because I'm surrounded by good people. I know that. I believe like all people are good. I even think people that like do crime are good people. They just lack resources. That's why they're doing the crime. So yeah, it tugs at my like humanity strings, those polarities, like good and power and how they intermingle. So I just got more curious is all, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? What did you learn about yourself today?
No, I resonate with that. With what Aloysius just said. If you read the work of Julie Diamond as well, she has dedicated her full life on power. She started writing a PhD about it. Power, your own power, other people's power, power, just everything power that you can think. She wrote a book on books, ranking, of course, how you rank. how we suddenly, that this one I break my head over, like aware, right? Now we are aware. And then we sort of rank ourselves of being sort of, no, it's very easy to rank awareness over not being aware, right? And how does that then work? So when I really, really zoom out is where I end up in called the, because then I think like there must be some greater force here, right? If people are good, like I resonate with that. Like people are good, people are good. It's just the context, or they're, or also a responsibility of society. Like why do people these things? Like it's their context. Like why didn't we see that? And then if you really zoom out, yeah, it's just the planets. Huh? So like the energies that are present now and activate. I need to dig deeper into that. I think just so super interconnected that a little butterfly in China can cause a tsunami somewhere else, and by that causes the war. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I learned there is no good, no limit in good, and it's never late or early for doing something good. Yeah, kind of. People can empower and also inspire, and vice versa. So like it's never early or late. You are never late, because that's what I learned. I don't know. So like I was also looking for that. Gonna say to Aloysius and lean to.
Thank you. Anybody
I gotta
else?
go, guys. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Turgitus.
See you later.
I noticed that, so if you think about like archetypal energy, what became the most active for me is like you would describe as this boundary between like the warrior or king, right? That like no, that no, right? That's setting the bound and going, hey, this is within the line, and that's on the other side of the line, and like just like I said, that sense of vigilance to be like very aware of what side I'm on, but what side generally we're playing on. Was interesting. Thank you. Well, Lean, I think that was the check-in wave.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much like invite you to test this. Huh? Now we sort of took a topic somehow, but you can also just launch this if you want to do a regenerative hour with your group, and it's just like let's check in on each other, and then
Benz.
and then you do this. Sorry, what's Ben's wanna? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, now that we've checked in, do we start the call now?
No, no. This was the whole thing. It's just to connect. But what I liked a little bit about this call also is like first you're a bit like, you want to hold on to a topic, and then slowly it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's indeed when you take the time to slow down and check in on each other and let it sink in a bit. Slow down patiently, and then you get there. And I think like if you do it more often, like take these hours from time to time, it will be easier. It will be easier. You will be able to let go of the agenda of the meeting or the topic that you want to discuss or whatever. You slowly grow to a deeper consciousness of the group, of yourself, really. And I like this. It's simple and easy and a deep democracy gift.
Amen. Well, thanks everybody for your time, attention, and energy. This has been session 9 of the Deep Democracy and Liberating Structures practice group. We hope to see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everyone. It was great. Even
Love you all.
have a nice week. See you.
you.